know David's going to be here this morning teaching. He doesn't know how old.
And see, this church, you should help and bring the put it in the church, especially ones in the down in the church.
Everything's okay.
It's out with that on the right. Cause if you sit so
Well,
low,
there you go. One guy.
and when you get up, that's why I bought this picture. Good morning, Joshua, how you doing?
Good morning. You doing all right?
Great, how are you?
I'm making it. Everything's good.
Hey, that's good.
Some extra running around this morning.
That's you though, John.
That's right.
You come back, you swing on around here and give me a look.
How about?
Right
Before I
now.
have to take off, let me give you your own right now. Come here.
Hey, baby.
Oh, I appreciate your encouragement.
You too. Most definitely. We need it for each other. There's so much just in the air. There's so much going on, sis. Oh, baby, man. I haven't had a lot of this and it's Thursday. Oh, yeah. I can put it down. With that granddaughter. Grandma, what that? Who's that? Is that the coffee? I said, yeah, ma, that's the coffee. And I have coffee. I get her to be. It's in this phone. Yes, baby. You see what I'm saying? I guess you know you love something, then come back and make me think. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I knew what I was supposed to do. It's like you have yourself, you got a chip and all that. All right.
It only gets better.
Amen, yeah. Better, you know, as they work. Yeah, without
Still working out
extra-
there with the cabinets and everything?
all this extra. I thank him anyway.
Huh?
Amen.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Say that people don't get it today.
Right.
I get it. Bring that company made it.
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
And I saw things on the bill for the last few weeks, but I feel like bills is for
My cousin.
And I said that to somebody. He was like, no. I'm like, well, no, it's Jeremiah. I don't know if it's still Jeremiah. And I said, how come you feel like it is? And he said, no. I said, I rode right behind Jersey Mike's wife. I said, no, I'll never not go to that house.
We all right. God made it. God gave us all different gifts. And you know, that's my family.
I'm not fishing, I'm charity.
Okay. Better. What you looking for, baby?
Good morning.
Hey. Okay. We'll be there.
Glad to be home.
How's that sound on that deal there? Let me get this, put my timer on, otherwise we'll go to 11 o'clock. I'll fall asleep. There we go. There we go. Hope everybody is doing well today. We'll give it a minute. We're good on, we're good on, okay, good deal. Are we live yet? Okay, good deal. So they can hear me and see me. I got hot mic'd one time. It was one of those deals where we did a check and I don't know what happened, but I turned it off. I turned it on when I thought I was turning it off. And it is a big fear of mine, you know, go to the restroom, you hot mic, you know. And so, but then I had a private conversation with someone in the room, and then somebody texted me and said, "Hey, we hear you." I'm like, "Ooh." It wasn't that big of a deal, but still. But it is what it is. It wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah. Okie dokie. Well, I hope everybody got out and enjoyed the weather after the storms. I had some trees limbed up this winter, and so I cut them all up and got firewood out of them. I got a big pile, big for a bonfire this fall, letting them break down, and man, the yard looked good. And then the storms come, and I've got just as many limbs down, all little limbs, all them little limbs that hurt you coming, but it's all good. It's all good. We got it all cleaned up and all fine. Well, let's rock. Deuteronomy 29. You don't have to turn there because we're going to be there just for a second. Deuteronomy 29 says this, 29:29. The secret things belong to the Lord our God, but the things revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may follow the words of this law. Now, and you're like, okay, what an interesting verse. That's actually where we started this whole series way back in September. This whole How Great Is Our God series, we started with that verse. And the idea is that there are some things that are secret that we just can't know. In fact, you know, if you go look, I think it's about Job 38 for about 2 or 3 chapters. He asked a whole bunch of questions to Job, and those are the secret things. You know, like, where were you when I laid the foundation of the world? I mean, there's no answer. We don't know. You know, so, but he knows. He knows. But there are also, the flip side of that verse is there are things that are revealed, and those are the things that we are privileged to study and delve into. The interesting thing to me is if we could explain, and we've said this before, if we could explain everything, then what would that make us? God. That'd make us God. And so I'm glad that we have a God that's greater than this mind, because this mind can really get a little hairy sometimes. Yeah, Ken?
We got to see the total eclipse on Monday.
Did you really?
We were in Cersei. That will blow your mind.
Wow.
How can anybody look at that and say there is not a God?
Yeah. You know, I mean, that's just it is. I mean, and how did that happen? How does this work? And how can we predict when the next one's going to happen? God. I mean, it's God. It's not like, oh.
They said it would start at 1:52. At 1:52, bam, it was there. Mm-hmm. That's how constant his laws of physics are.
Yeah, and the rhythm. And then we've even mentioned before that God is a God of rhythm and wants rhythm in our life. And when we don't have rhythm, we have chaos. And we all know what chaos looks like in our life. So even and that's part of our God image, and we've been talking about that the last number of weeks. Mike has. It is. And that goes to the whole Romans 1 thing, that even people who did not grow up or have a knowledge or intimate knowledge like the Jews did of God, have this God consciousness. We're born believers. We're born knowing. We have to be taught not to believe. And the enemy does a pretty good job oftentimes of that. So there are things that we can know. Now, the things that we can't know, if we tried to know them, it'd probably cause just a brain freeze like no ice cream could ever do, and just lock our brains up and go into some catatonic stupor, and like, I just don't know. And if we try to figure it out, and people have driven themselves just bonkers trying to figure things out that just you just can't figure out. And so, but the things that we can know, boy, just the multifaceted level of understanding what he has revealed. And that's what we get to here. That's why we start, when we begin to land the plane on this series, which will end at the end of May. And we got about 6 weeks in this series on covenants. And we tried to come up with some pithy name for it, but it's really there's nothing pithy about it. It's just covenants. And so, but those things, when we talk about covenants, it's really cool that we're ending this series about how great our God is, because in covenants, we see how great God is. And we will scratch the surface, because you talk about multifaceted, this is something. God desires a relationship with humanity. Covenant achieves two aims. I think this is on the PowerPoint when I turn it on. Oh, so's the thing. Okay. It's crazy when you do your own PowerPoint, you don't even remember what you put on it. How about that? The covenant achieves this goal by two aims. One, creating the relationship. The relationship is officially created. And then defining the nature or the bounds of that relationship and what is there. We did a brief study of this back in October when we did the hands thing. In fact, you remember what the hands were? H is honors. A is attributes. Names. Deeds. And seats. Yes, very good. Was she looking at her notes, Tara? Oh, look at that memory. She's looking at her man. That's right. That's my wife. Looking at her man. That's hilarious. So the funny thing is, she can remember that, but getting from here to there is sometimes, I'm her GPS sometimes on navigation. Now, how do I go back home? It's not that bad, but it's just the nature of our relationship. We briefly hit on this when we did seats, as Jesus sitting at the seat of the right hand of God as a high priest of a new covenant. So, and we promised then we would come back to that and to this moment. So this is that moment we've come back to look at this. Do turn with me to Matthew 26. I want us to spend a minute looking at this. Let's see what's next. I think, yeah, there we go. 26, verse 28. Super familiar to you. Jesus is in taking Passover right before his crucifixion, and he says this in verse 27. Let's look at verse 26. While they were eating, Jesus took bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and gave it to the disciples, saying, "Take and eat, this is my body." Verse 27, then he took the cup, gave thanks, and offered it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the what? Of the covenant." Now, some of your versions may say new covenant, and some of the other renderings in Luke, Mark, Luke, and John say, or Mark and Luke actually say new covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. All right, just from those couple of verses, what do we know? We know there's a covenant. Okay, I mean, real simple stuff. Just from the words, we know there's a covenant. And if we look at, depending on the rendition, I think I should have probably read Mark, we know that what is involved in this covenant?
The blood of Christ will heal you of your sins.
Well, yes, that's exactly right. That there is blood, and that blood involves forgiveness. And this is the blood of what kind of covenant?
A new one.
A new one. And if there's a new one, what does that mean? There's an old one. And so if this is blood of a new covenant, then what happens with the blood of the old covenant? It's no longer needed because there's blood of a new covenant. All right. Now, in our minds, we're like, okay, I think I vaguely get a little bit of that. But in their minds, when covenant was as big a part of their day-to-day experience and what they did as Christmas and Easter and is what we do, is just this, it's April. We got 8 months till Christmas. We better start thinking what everybody wants, you know. That is as much a part of their life as it was ours. So what we're going to do is try to drill down just a little bit into what maybe these, what this means. Because if we're not careful, and we've probably done this. I mean, I grew up going to church, and I knew what these words meant, and I knew that somebody said this about the time we took the Lord's Supper, and I understood that, and I got that. I got the information of that. But it's almost like, how many of you, let's see, a lot of you in here remember the first Star Wars, 1977, 78, okay? For you, yeah. You were the privileged. Look, you're the privileged generation, okay? Have you seen all the Star? Okay, so you're the privileged generation. Daniel, you guys, Dennis, Veronica, y'all are the privileged generation because this is what we had to deal with. 1977, 1978, episode 4. What? And then this long thing you have to read. And at 9, I couldn't read it that fast. 55, I can't read it that fast. And so you watch, and here's this bad guy. I mean, the baddest guy of all bad guys. I mean, he's got this mask, he's got this cape. Every time he walks in, he has his own music. And I mean, we all know what it is. What is it? Exactly, yeah. And then right here, he's got buttons, and he never presses them. I mean, he does this, and people die, and what if he pressed the button? Kaboom! You know. But anyways, all that. And then you go to 5. Then you go to 6. 20 years later, you get 1. There's this cute little boy. There's a cuter little boy. And there's this very handsome man. And there's Padme. And they're like, how did this good-looking guy become Darth Vader? And you are the privileged crew that could watch it from 1 all the way. The rest of us were like, my life's not complete until I figure this out. Now, all that's a very long, silly illustration to understand that if we come to Matthew 28 or Mark or Luke and start reading, it's like episode 4. It's like 1977 Star Wars. We pick up in the middle, and like, how did we get here? Fortunately, there's a book, and we can go back and delve into it. And so that's what we're going to try to do. There's some complexities to understand, so we're going to break them down. Today is basically flyover. We're going to look at covenants, and we're going to try to break it down in a simple way that if you get these concepts down, it's going to start making sense or make better sense as we go forward. And then we're going to get into the different covenants in the Bible. All right, so the first thing, if you can remember 3 words and 6 names, you got it made. 3 words and 6 names. And I got this little teaching thing from Sandra Richter. And some of this information, some of it, probably a third of it, comes from her work called The Epic of Eden. And it's worth the read. I didn't get a thing, but it's worth the read. So 3 words. If you can remember these 3 words, okay? Bro. Just remember bro. Hey, bro, what's up? Ernie, bro, what's up, man? Yeah, so you just say bro, and you've got it. Blood. Say blood. Blood. Redemption. Redemption and obligations. Blood, redemption, obligations. Those are 3 things that are in every one of them. Maybe not directly, but indirectly and nuanced in there. So let's look at a couple of things. Blood. Just look at blood. I don't think I have anything else past that. Blood. Blood means what? Sacrifice. Okay. That's second base. First base means life. Okay. That's probably, yeah, that's where you start right there in the batter's box. But also, if I have blood and Karen and I have 3 children, and they also have what in me? They have my blood. We're blood kin. So you have blood is life, blood brings together, and then you get to that blood sacrifice, because that is what it does. It creates, blood creates relationship. All right, how many got blood brothers? I mean, like not just like, hey, this is my same brother, mom and dad, but blood brothers like the Indians used to do. We used to watch the old westerns. You know what I'm talking about? How many made a blood brother? Yeah, okay. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But it's not like I'd never cut ourselves or anything. Or you'd be playing in the woods and, oh, I got a scratch. Oh, man, I cut my, hey, let's be blood brothers. And you put it there, and then you realize later how unsanitary that was. But we all lived. It's kind of like riding in the back of a pickup truck down the interstate. You just do it. And we survived. But, yeah, why? Because blood brings us together. Now, here's a term. It's called fictive relationships. Okay? So I have 2 sisters, really. I have 2 half-sisters. One sister, the one I grew up with, same mom. The one I just connected with a number of years ago, same dad. But we share the same blood in some level. My 3 children, Avery, Nathan, and Hayden, all share the same blood, the same DNA, the same thing that they inherited from Karen and I. Same thing with every one of us. We share some natural, biological blood relationship with somebody. But then there's this relationship that we have with people that you don't share blood with, but it's called a fictive relationship, which means it's as if we were blood. So, April 21st, 37 years ago, I entered a fictive relationship with Karen. We got married. And that's coming up, so don't forget, Karen, 7 days from today. 37 years ago. Did we share the same blood? No, we did not. She was from Indiana. I was from Louisiana. Hallelujah. You never know. You get, around this area. West Carroll Parish, I hope, Robert and Kathy. I don't know if they did blood test on y'all, but I think y'all are safe. Kilburn's a small town. But, I thought I'd pick on ourselves instead of Arkansas, for a while. But it's there. You're right, buddy. It's right there. So it's you form. You're not blood. We were not blood kin. But when we got married, it was as if we were blood. It made us kin, and that's this fictive relationship. And that's what blood does. The benefits of, so let's take that outside of marriage. Let's take that into what happens in the Old Testament, or the covenants we see in the Old Testament. There was always blood when it came to forming a covenant. There were certain rituals, and we'll get to that when we get to obligations, that had to happen something had to die in order for blood to be shed so that a relationship could happen. The upside of that is that I am now treated as family. You have those people in your life that are treated as family even though they weren't born into your family? Yeah, we all have those at some level. We all have the benefit of that. It happens, it's easy to say because marriage is such a thing. If you're I have a son-in-law and a daughter-in-law, and they're mine. They are mine, no doubt about it. They are mine, no matter what. And in fact, this happened so much so when my cousin passed away at a young age, her husband took care of her parents. They were living with him at the time and said, I will take care of you. And he was young, he was early 50s. My cousin was 50 when she passed away. And they moved and took my aunt and uncle, and he remarried. And his new wife is still taking care of my aunt. My uncle has since passed away, still taking care of that. That is what the benefit of covenant is. I promise you, I will take care of you as kin. The downside is, I think I'm going to jump ahead here in just a second. Yeah, I'm going to jump ahead. Well, yeah, it all goes together. So there's no jumping ahead. So what would happen when you made a covenant with someone? And you'll see this. There was something had to die. There was, and the one that we'll get to in a few weeks with Abraham is the most graphic that we see, in which they took animals and they killed the animals and they put half the animal over here and one half over here, and it created a trough of blood, and you had to walk it. It was called the blood path. And everybody in that covenant walked through. This was a normal thing that happened. And basically it says, now we're blood kin. The other side of this, and you get this from Jeremiah 34, where it says, if I do not keep this covenant, let happen to me what happened to those animals. Let me die. Because these blood covenants are covenants for life. Now roll forward into marriage and you see how important that is, and the nuance, or not the nuance, the illusions that are there. So that's the importance of blood. Blood was always there when it came to covenants. The other word is redemption. Now, underlying theme throughout all the covenants is redemption that we're going to talk about. Sometimes it's directly stated. I am making a covenant with you. Sometimes it's implied because you see the same things. You'll hear the implications of it in Genesis next week when we talk about that. When Josh talks about Genesis and Adam, when he made this covenant with Adam, which is also Adam. It's the covenant with humanity. And then you have also, but you see it in Noah, I'm making a covenant. When you see it in Abraham, I'm making a covenant with you. It's the directly stated thing. Major theme throughout the Bible. It's a multifaceted idea. How would you define redemption? Well, has a lot of different meanings. It involves rescue. You see Abraham rescuing Lot because of a covenant, a family covenant that they were in. A ransom, a buyback. You see that in Hosea and Gomer, and you see that in other places as well. And then there is a restoration that's happening. You see that in Ruth, where something was restored that needed to be redeemed, and there's restoration happening there. All those rescue, ransom, and restoration all point to Jesus. And I think what you'll see, or what we're driving at, all these covenants point to Jesus. Deeply rooted. Let me try that one more time, for the third time. Deeply rooted in relationships created by blood. Okay? All these things are deeply rooted. So you had Abraham and Lot, and what was the relationship there? Remember?
Nephew and uncle.
Uncle and nephew. But Lot went with Abraham. There's a good indication that maybe his father had died, and he said, you really don't belong to me, but you do. And he got himself in a bind. I'm going to take care of you. I'm putting myself on the line for you. So all this in this redemption theme is indication that harm has been done or unfaithfulness has happened. And so there's got to be rescue, a buyback, or a restoration. There's something's got a little messed up in the covenant relationship, so there's this redemption thing that's got to happen. You'll see that throughout. Obligations, all right? Obligations. This goes a lot of different ways. The part of it is understanding the type of covenant that we're in. All right. Have you ever heard the word suzerain? Okay. Heard the word vassal. Okay. I've heard the word vassal. Suzerain is an old term. We would probably use the word lord. Think back feudal system stuff, lords and vassals. In this particular case, a suzerain is one who is greater in power and in status than the vassal. We all understand vassal. And what we have is, and this is just some terminology that was in the culture at the time and still is used today in some areas. It's not obviously in our vocabulary very often. But a suzerain is someone who is over another person. And this is the type of covenants that you see in the Bible. Okay? As opposed to what's called a parity covenant. All right? A parity covenant is a covenant amongst equals. I will come mow your yard, you pay me money. That's a parity. It's a quid pro quo, something for something. We're all the same. You're not greater than me. I'm not greater than you. We're amongst equals. You see this. How many remember Cold War? The Cold War. Yeah. The Cold War. What kept, a little fact here, a little history fact, maybe Miss Dorsey will remember this. Always get intimidated when I talk about history and there's a history teacher. Just like when there's an English teacher and I start to do English stuff, I get all intimidated and scared. But what kept us from firing all our missiles at Russia and then firing theirs at us?
Mutually assured destruction.
Yes, the MAD doctrine or idea. You shoot at us, before they get to us, we're shooting at you, and we're all going to be in trouble, and we're all going to be dead. And then what's going to happen? I don't know. Some other country will take over. But so it kept us from shooting at each other. Mutually assured destruction. Why? Because that was an agreement or an understanding more than anything, I think, between equals. Of course, we always said we were better, and they said they were better, but that's just part of it. It was a parity understanding. Not so with this. This is a suzerain vassal. And what the suzerain did, as the Lord, as the one who said, I tell you what, you are a less than nation or people. I am greater. I can defeat you. I can take you. Give me everything you've got. Everything you own becomes mine. And in return to that, then I will protect you with everything I've got. You fall under me, and I will protect you. And we see a lot of that. This happened, one little smidge of, just to give you an example of this, was, do you remember when Joshua came into the land? Moses has died, they cross over the promised land, they do Jericho 7 times, boom, falls down. It's all great. And they start conquering the nations. And the Gibeonites, they came in and they said, all right, what's going to happen here is they're going to come destroy us. Let's just go surrender. Let's go form a covenant, a treaty with them. They're greater than us. They can have everything, but then we'll be protected from everybody else. So they got on their bad clothes and their holes in their shoes and looked all weak and sad and scraggly and malnourished, and went up to him and said, we're just people from far off, and they had this deception thing going on. And then whenever Joshua, yes, we'll protect you, we created this suzerain vassal treaty. Then Joshua finds out that their neighbors, you mean you just live right down the road? Really? We were fixing to defeat you? Okay, I tell you what, we're going to keep this covenant, but let me tell you what you're going to do for us. We're going to protect you, but because of your deception, you know what the Gibeonites had to do for Israel forever? They were the woodcutters and water carriers. That's what they're like. This is what you're going to do. Okay. And so that was an idea that they came in and made that happen. It was, even though it was under false pretenses that they made this covenant, they still kept the covenant. It was there. Just a quick example of that. So ownership, protection, extreme loyalty. Do not go find another suzerain. Do not. It's tantamount to adultery. Do not go do it. That's why God said Israel has committed adultery. They went to, all these people are attacking us. Let's run down to Egypt and maybe they'll protect us. And they formed a treaty with them. He's like, you broke my covenant. Oh, let's align with all these people against Assyria coming in. Oh, the Babylonians, let's fight against them here. No, trust me. Trust me. I am your suzerain. You are my vassal. I own everything and I will protect you, but you went and sought after another. And so that's the language you hear in the covenant. Starting to kind of meld together a little bit. There are rituals performed. Rituals were actions that had deeper meaning behind them. The problem with, of course, you have stuff like sacrifice, burnt offerings, walking between two halves of dead animals, offering first fruits of the harvest, some things that are just like, man, that seems a little weird for us today to do. And different cultures still have different things. We had the wedding ceremony, different ones, you jump over a stick, just different things like that you do. But the ritual means something. You had symbols of the covenant. Here's the symbol of my covenant right here. I wear it on my finger. Some people do tattoos on their finger or whatever they choose to do. But the symbol or the ritual of the covenant means nothing without what? What's underneath it. There's got to be something underneath it. The rituals themselves had no meaning outside of what was driving them. So in other words, a sacrifice, burnt offering to God on the Day of Atonement meant nothing if the heart of the person offering wasn't in it. And that's why Hebrews says it's impossible. It was impossible for the blood of bulls and goats. It couldn't even cleanse the conscience of the person that wanted to be cleansed. That's why it pointed to something greater. But even a person offered with a bad heart or a bad spirit about them, it meant nothing. It meant nothing. To oversimplify, without reducing the importance of rituals, rituals were visual statements of a covenant or agreement. In other words, they were reminders that we're in a covenant relationship. The ring is a reminder that I'm in a covenant relationship. And they served as markers of when the covenant began and reminders that they're still in effect. All right, so that's that. You keep doing this. Why? Because we're still under this covenant. But when Jesus comes along and says, I've got a new covenant, there's a marking of a new one and the ending of an old one. We'll get to that today. Today we have two covenant reminders we do quite often. What are they? Baptism and communion. Those are when this covenant relationship started, and the Lord's Supper is reminding ourselves that we are in a covenant relationship. But the rituals and themselves have no meaning if the heart of the worshiper is just not there. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. All right. So that was a lot on 3 words, okay? 6 names. And I really tried to come up with like a bro here, but there's no bro. And a umdaja. I don't know what language that is, but that's it. And a umdaja. I can't even say it. 6 people. You just have to remember them in order. And if you think through, if you're familiar with your Old Testament, coming into the New Testament, you can kind of visualize it. First one's easy, because who's the first dude? Who's the first bro? Adam, no problem. Not long after that, you get Noah. And then you get Abraham. And then after Abraham, Moses comes along. And then Moses, there's a big gap, but there's actually a big gap between Abraham and Moses too. But yeah, you get to David, and then a big gap to Jesus. So these guys, real quickly here, because this is where we're going to spend our time. So you got the 3. The bro is B is not the literal bro, but the acronym bro. Bro, blood, redemption, obligations, and we're going to weave in and out the blood, redemption, obligations into all 6 of these bros. Okay, guys that are here. Adam, you'll see this covenant with humanity. In fact, we'll get to, Josh will get to this next week. 1 Corinthians talks about a first Adam and a second Adam, which is who? Jesus. So you start putting these things together. Then you have Noah. We're going to be introduced to this idea of burnt offering. The first time you see burnt offering, this hola sacrifice. The hola is the Hebrew word there, means complete. And it was after that complete offering, that's where the Jews get the term Holocaust. And this complete sacrifice, this burnt offering, something died to be offered, okay? And that you get this covenant that is made. And you get this idea too that in Genesis with Adam, there is, what do you have in 1 and 2? What's God doing? Creating. Genesis 6, 6 rolls along. It got so bad, what happened? There was a flood. Where and what happened? What was covered? Everything. Where's the first time you see everything covered in water? In the beginning. In the beginning, yeah. And before creation. And then everything. And then after a while in the ark, where do the waters go? They receded. They go back where they're supposed to be. And what happens? Recreation. So you start seeing this thing happening throughout. And so we'll spend some time talking about creation, recreation. And Adam and Noah, they kind of go together. And then you pivot. Then you pivot from Noah to this one of his sons, Seth, and all the way down through Seth from about 11, 10, because 11's bad, Tower of Babel, bad news. 10 all the way to 12, and you're introduced to Abraham. And this is really when it starts to take shape. You have this narrowing down from Adam, humanity, to Noah, recreation, to this one guy in an impossible situation. He's given 3 promises. And then this one little idea here at the end of his life where he blesses one of his sons. I think Judah was the 4th. Fourth in line to anything doesn't get anything. And here he is the one that says the scepter will not depart from him. He gets to reign and rule. I'm like, what is this about? And poor Reuben, all he got was a sandwich named after him. But thank you for the complimentary laugh on that. He got you there, didn't he, Chris? Yeah, he got it. Yeah. But Judah gets to rule. And who comes from Judah? David. David, I jumped. But you have Moses, you have this guy in here named Levi, and from Moses comes from Levi, and he brings this law. And while he was not the high priest, his brother was, but his tribe was the priestly tribe that represented the people before God. And this really starts to take shape from here, in which one guy who, impossible situation, becomes a nation, and they have this law, which is that covenant that we oftentimes refer to and think of when we get to the New Testament. And then so that begins to proliferate in some great ways. And then David comes along from this tribe of Judah, and he was the first one that God chose. The people chose Benjamin, Saul from Benjamin, but God chose David from Judah, kind of tying that line to Genesis 49:10. And out of that, you're going to hear things like, your throne and reign will be forever. There will be, yes, Jesse's tree is going to be cut down, but out of Jesse, who was David's dad, there will be a shoot from the tribe, from the clan of Jesse, from David's family, a royal priesthood, a royal line. And then where it all points to and gets to is Jesus. And that's where we come to in Matthew, Mark, Luke, where he talks about, this is my blood of a new covenant. And I'm fulfilling not just this covenant of Moses, but I'm fulfilling all of these and bringing us back to my original covenant with Adam. And that is a beautiful thing, because it was with humanity. So why is this even important? Genesis 12. Jason read it last week. But you have come to Mount Zion, the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem. You have come to thousands upon thousands of angels and joyful assembly, to the church of the firstborn, whose names are written in heaven. You have come to God, the judge of all, to the spirits of the righteous made perfect, to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant, and to the sprinkled blood that speaks a better word than the blood of Abel. Now, what does all that mean? It is by covenant of a new covenant in Jesus' blood that we get all these benefits. You have come to Mount Zion, the heavenly Jerusalem, thousands upon thousands of angels in joyful assembly, to the church of the firstborn. Your name is written in heaven. You have come before the judge of all, and stand confident, not fearful. You stand with other people, the spirits of people who have been made righteous. How do those benefits happen? Because Jesus is the mediator of a new covenant. This is the depth and breadth of our salvation based in this relationship. Covenant connects the dots and makes the picture of redemption way more colorful. Can I know this stuff and not know this stuff and go to heaven? Absolutely. Because it's about what Jesus has done, is doing, and will do in His grace that gets us to heaven. But boy, whenever you start filling in the color and all the things about covenant, boy, it makes that grace pop like you wouldn't believe. Like, wow. And it is a fascinating thing. Covenant is the foundation for us to grow deeper in our appreciation for what God has done, is doing, and will do for us in the future. And the beautiful thing about all this, and this wasn't even planned, actually, God planned it. We started Hebrews last week, and all that points, we're talking this stuff here with Moses and how it all points to Jesus, how Jesus is greater than all of that. So this, over the next number of weeks, as we study all these covenants, and while they're preaching on Hebrews, it's going to, well, I really hope it pulls together in some great ways, and your Bible comes alive in some great ways. So that's where we're going. Let's pray, and we'll be done. Father, we're grateful for to be the privileged bunch on this side of things to be able to delve into the Word. And I pray that we have this growing faith, that those who did not have this Word, who were just walking without it and by faith only, but still they saw, I pray that our faith will grow to that point as we study. Thank you for initiating a relationship with us. It's through